So, Dobre večer, everybody. How's it going? This is like the last one of the day. How are you guys feeling? Are you hungry? Yes. Do you want beer? Yes. Me too, let's go. Let's just go. So my name is Ron J. Williams. I'm in here from Brooklyn, New York. And it's been a really, really great day. I started my morning hanging out with the Creative Mornings folks. And now I'm with you guys. And I've been really impressed with the entrepreneurs, the media professionals, just the creative community here. So thank you very much for the invitation. And I think the organizers have done a wonderful job with the event. So why don't you give them a round of applause and buy them a drink afterwards, right? Buy them a drink. So the name of my talk is Unmarketing. And the sort of premise of the talk is really simple. It's that increasingly I think what we're seeing is that marketing, as it's traditionally defined, is changing so much that it's becoming unrecognizable as marketing. And I want to get to the really important stuff first. Who here likes Michael Jackson? Raise your hands, right? Michael Jackson? Good. What about ice cream? Okay, that has nothing to do with my talk. I just want to make sure that I can trust you. Because if you don't like Michael Jackson or ice cream, I can't trust you. I can't have a beer with you. That's crazy, right? So, again, I'm Ron J. Dub. If you're on Twitter, holler at me, hit me up, tell me I suck on stage, whatever you want to do. And I'm the founder of two things, Nodes and Snapgoods. And a really quick story, the reason why there's a motorcycle behind my head is a couple of years ago I convinced a total stranger to rent me a motorcycle on Craigslist to impress a girl that I was dating at the time. Girl in a motorcycle, right? And it worked, got the motorcycle, got the girl, married the girl. So that's what Snapgoods is. Ultimately, we built this company that was a way to rent stuff from people in your network or neighborhood, kind of like Airbnb for stuff. As we were building that, I became really obsessed with this idea that our networks were not working very efficiently. And this will kind of loop into why it is that I'm up here talking about Unmarketing. The one thing that I got stuck on was this idea that if I am a person looking for something, whether it be a recommendation or advice on what places I should go to while I'm in Prague, there's got to be something better than this. So I posted this on my wall a couple days ago, right? How many of you guys have posted on Facebook or tweeted or put in some social network, hey guys, does anybody know blank? Be honest. Only one, two, really? Most of us. I mean, a few of us. The rest of you guys know everything about everything. Except I didn't just do this. Nodes equipped me to be able to do this, which was identify people in my network. In this case, of the 2,000 or so people that follow me on Twitter, it was able to identify 4 or 5 people, most of whom I wouldn't have thought of offhand, who have tweeted from Prague, who have lived in Prague, talked about Prague, and it bubbled them up for me and said, hey, ask these guys. And so I was able to include them and mention them when I actually posted this. And this is what Nodes does, is it makes networks work more effectively. And so, as you can imagine, my kind of perspective on the world is that as we become more and more connected, as we have more and more friends, and more people telling us what it is that we should buy, what it is that, where we should go to eat, what trips we should take, as we become more and more influenced by the people that are in our networks, as we don't need experts quite the way we used to, the ability to put context about your network everywhere that you are. Hey, I loved your cool new tech product. So much so that I want to tell people in my network who would appreciate it, this is the future that we sort of have come to see. And the bigger kind of picture is that the more connected we are, the less advertising, the less traditional marketing becomes a relevant way to connect with and acquire new users, new customers, new fans. And the more it becomes, you've got people who love you, you've got great content, let them tell your story for you. And that's really the crux of what I think of as Unmarketing. Another way to put it is get the hell out of the way, right? People want to talk about you, your customers want to talk about your brands, your offers, the things that they love about you. How do we leverage technology, leverage these communities, facilitate conversations, and get out of the way? This is not actually a new concept in some ways. Relationship marketing, permission marketing, content marketing, this stuff has been going on since literally back in the day. We're talking about in the 1800s. There's a company in the US called John Deere, super sexy. They make tractors, really, really high-tech tractors, right? And they've been doing content marketing since the 1800s. Instead of simply trying to sell people, they started creating content that people found valuable. They were telling people all about different fertilizers and all this stuff. This is in the 1800s. So the concept of giving people value with content, getting them to talk about and engage you before you actually make a sale, this is something that's been around for a long time. Don't let anybody tell you that it just came about as a result of the social web. But I think there's something different now. What's different now is we've never had so many connections that emanate from each of us, right? With us at the center. You are the center of your universe online. Who is it in your network that influences you on what? Who in your network do you influence about what? This is what's different now. Who here has 100 or so people that they might be connected to online? Right? Whatever network you're on, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Foursquare, Instagram, doesn't really matter. These relationships now give us the way to drive conversation about the brands that we love. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's talk about football for a second. Is this dangerous? Am I in trouble here? Actually, you guys are going to shoot me because I don't mean this kind of football. I mean fake football. I mean American football. Which I recognize doesn't make any sense. You hold it with your hands. Why the hell do we call it football? That makes no sense whatsoever. So the Super Bowl is the largest, from a TV perspective, the largest sporting event in the United States. It's disturbing how many people watch it. Something like 115 million people watch this show. It's a lot of people. And I wanted to give you, I promised numbers in this talk. I think there's an interesting phenomenon that's happened. You guys are all familiar with the idea that the social web is taking over. You guys are all familiar with the idea that community and content and commerce are all becoming interlocked. But I'm not sure if you realize just how bad traditional models are doing. 115 million people. Budweiser, king of the beers in the US, spent $235 million over the course of 10 years. Now, I don't know how wealthy everybody in this room is, but that's a lot of money to me from where I sit. Right? That's a lot of money. And in this 10 years, they spent $235 million. What did they get? Anybody want to take a guess? What did they get? Lots of awards. They got tons of awards. You guys remember Budweiser or the Frogs? Amazing, right? Except they lost market share in that same period. That's a WTF moment, right? That's what happened. They went from 25% to 10%. Microbreweries, micro brands began to pop up that were literally eating their lunch, right? Taking their market share, creating communities around niche content, around niche offerings. $235 million lost them market share. But in a meeting with some ad executives, they were happy with the number of impressions they had gotten. This is the traditional model. Spend a bunch of money, get in front of a bunch of eyeballs, not necessarily people, don't necessarily drive real engagement, but did you have eyeballs on your content, on your message? In that same meeting, there's apparently a sort of a State of the Union kind of address to a bunch of executives. A company called Blend Tech. Have you guys seen this online? Will it blend? Right? I think you guys know where this is going. So $235 million versus people blending shit in blenders. iPhones. Excuse my language, I am profane sometimes. iPads, iPhones, all kinds of stuff. And to put this in perspective, we're talking about a $100 self-produced video. $100. That's a lot less zeros than $235 million. And for one $100 self-produced video, these folks were able to generate millions of views on YouTube. And something else, measurable ROI. Now, obviously, it's a different product, you say. Beer, blender, different product, but still, the methodology, super different, right? Good content, easy to share. And here is the uptake. This drove sales up by 700% over the course of 2 to 3 years of this campaign. 200,000 subscribers to their YouTube channel. 220 million views in aggregate on YouTube. Now, you guys may know this stuff already, but I just want to highlight how broken the traditional model is. Content is shareable. Content is something that can be passed along. I like really good ads. I hate bad ads. If you are a person that's ever built product here, right? Does anybody here use like user stories, post-its, right? Have you ever written a user story that started with, as a user, I'd like to see slightly less crappy ads? That's not a user story that anybody has ever written down, right? So good ads, good content is good content. It doesn't matter if you call it ad or not, but most people are making amazing content. Now, why is content so incredibly valuable? This is, by the way, from a host of sources. One of them is a commenting system based in the US called Disqus, D-I-S-Q-U-S. It's a commenting platform. And so I sat down with their head of product and I was like, well, how good is give you the inside scoop, how good is the engagement when you guys are on pages where you drive engagement around content? And these are the numbers. Just having content that gets engaged on a page on a site drives better return traffic, drives better engagement, which downstream drives sales. There's only one issue. There's really good content on the web, like really, really good content. Have you guys seen this? Stratos? So there's an expression that we have called throwing money at a problem. Right? That's when you're like, we're going to solve it just by throwing $235 million at it. We're just going to solve the problem. Except now what we're seeing is that people aren't just throwing money at the problem. They're throwing guys out of spaceships. Literally, right? So it's not good enough to just have content. It's not good enough even to have good content if you don't have a strategy for utilizing that content to bring your community alive. Last year, $40 billion, not all this online, by the way, but $40 billion was spent on content marketing. $40 billion. We're talking about materials to support users. We're talking about all kinds of great initiatives. Just a ton of money. And yet the click-throughs for this stuff, because the way it's largely deployed is still traditional, resulted in overall less than 2% click-throughs. That's not awesome, right? That's just not, when you compare that with the kinds of return on investment that Blend Tech got for the work it was doing, we know that this is a challenge. Everybody is trying to figure this thing out. In a world where more people are connected to more people, where Facebook and Twitter are taking so much friction out of sharing, and encouraging you to share with everyone. And there's a great presentation earlier called Fakebook. I don't know if you guys saw it, but inherently people are gaming the system and creating opportunities for you to share with as many people as possible. Facebook is a media company. Twitter is a media company. They want impressions, they want eyeballs, they want inventory that they can sell. So as these social pipes get clogged up, everybody is facing the same challenge. How do I get my content heard? Especially when they're throwing people out of spaceships, right? This is the problem. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud, but I will, because I bet you know that I'm that kind of guy. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if your friend sends it to you. If you didn't ask for it and you don't appreciate it, it's spam. I want you to say that with me. Just the last part, because there's a lot of words. If you didn't ask for it, it doesn't matter who it's from. What is it? Spam. It's spam. It doesn't really matter. And what we're seeing is channel by channel, again, going back through history, we see the same thing. There's actually a moment in time, believe this or not, where posters was new. Posters was like a new thing in London, 1800s. And people went crazy with billboards. So much so that they banned posters, because that was like the hot new tech, the new advertising tech. Posters. Phone calls, right? As you sort of see, you saw the adoption of phones, and my reference, obviously, my frame of reference is the United States, but as you saw the uptick in adoption of phone calls, phones in homes, what did you have pop up? Cold calling on phones. Who here loves to get a good call at 7:45 in the morning, selling you insurance or something? I love that stuff. Do you have a free moment? No, I was just asleep. Yeah, cool, let's talk. Let's talk about your stuff. Didn't even get me coffee. In the US, we had Do Not Call, instituted late 90s, early 2000s. Even Facebook got in trouble, and actually there was really great talk about sponsored stories in the Open Graph and how it's evolved. But in the first iteration, it was so bad. Do you guys remember when one day you had Facebook in its most recent iteration, and then the next day, one of your friends was recommending McDonald's. And you're like, what? I don't even think Ron eats a McDonald's. And it was because I'd been on a Burger King page, and Facebook was hijacking my persona and making recommendations in my name. Do you guys remember this? Even they got in trouble. They got sued, actually. They settled. There was a class action lawsuit in the US. Not big dollars. I didn't get rich. I think I bought a cup of coffee with the money I won as a part of that suit. So it doesn't matter where it's from, it's still spam. The fact of the matter is as we get more connected, as we no longer look to just traditional news sources, or an expert on TV, infomercials, which, by the way, in all seriousness, are actually fun to watch late at night. I cannot lie. But we don't look to them as experts. We look to our networks. We look to our people we trust. As we do this, we increasingly have to appreciate that nobody likes to be interrupted. Nobody likes to have what's called interruption marketing, traditional marketing, interrupt their flow. Nobody loves pre-roll ads on YouTube, right, before you get to your real video. Nobody's like, I can't wait to get to the video I want to watch and then wait 30 seconds to watch some really crappy advertisements. That's another user story that nobody ever writes. So getting interrupted sucks. And so as we see users take more and more control in terms of directing conversations, I wanted to do a whole section on some really fun things that have happened in the social web around brands and how they've handled the social web well and how they handle it poorly. There are situations where an intern at the Red Cross of America accidentally tweeted about going out and getting slizzard, getting drunk from the actual Red Cross America corporate account. And then they jumped on, they were like, hey, we took the keys back from the kids, everything's fine here, nobody's drunk. They handle it well. I wanted to talk all about that, don't really have time. The fact is, as the web evolves and as we take more control from what used to be a model of publisher, content consumer, and we all become both content consumers and content creators, we don't want to be interrupted, and we only want to get stuff from people that we trust, increasingly. That could be brands, it can be people, but there's an expectation that if you're going to take some of my time, I know you, I've given you permission, we have a relationship. And this is why the role of content becomes ever more important. There's a great statistic recently that said 90% of e-commerce shoppers, and this I feel like it's a bit of a flub number, but it's still pretty impressive, 90% report being influenced in their purchase decision by friends, by social influence. Not pulling the trigger on purchasing stuff until they've actually gotten some validation. But as we keep saying, content is not enough. You've got to have relationships. Really, really cool, dark relationships. Because there are fun stats on this stuff. The right message from the right person does a way better job of driving authentic conversation. And again, I don't want to be when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I don't want to be the guy that kind of beats this dead horse. But driving authentic engagement is not a nice to have. Content strategy isn't a thing that people should maybe figure out one day. This is the single most important element of any marketing strategy that people have to consider seriously starting yesterday. Because when it works really well, and it's far more cost effective. And this room increasingly expects this. These people are excited. You've got fans that are excited. And you've just got to get out of the way. A quick case study that we did. There's an author in the US, he travels, he's a speaker, named Baratunde Thurston. He wrote a book called How to Be Black. It's a good book. Before I read it, no, I'm kidding. So this is a real book. And it's actually being turned into an HBO show. And you too can be black. Now, so the thing about this book is this guy, he had a show on the Discovery Channel. Have you guys ever heard of The Onion? It's a sort of satire newspaper, right? Cool paper. So he was the web editor of The Onion. He's done stuff in politics. There might be 50 different reasons why people kind of like him. When he was launching his book, he came to us and he said, hey, so I want to launch my book. He's really good at all this stuff. We learned actually from him. But the coolest thing to see was, and to watch him work was, he didn't spam his network. What he was doing was basically asking people to self-select who already were following him, already loved him. And he put out a call. He said, who wants to help me promote this book? And 100 people showed up. I'd never seen anything like it. And these people basically volunteered to go out and get their friends to events, to go out and tell their friends about his stuff. And it was just amazing to watch. And so we facilitated, we did what we could, but just observing that let us know, this is almost 2 years ago, that there's this new paradigm emerging around how you launch, how you engage a community, and how you just let them do what they already want to do, just make it easy for them to do what they want to do. This is a depressing country western lyric. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Really sad. It's about settling. It's not good. But it also is actually incredibly pertinent to this conversation. I said before, you've got content marketing as a name, permission marketing as a name, relationship marketing is focusing on the people that you already have. We all make the mistake, I've been guilty 1,000 times, of building for the customer and the user that you want to have, instead of focusing on the person that is in your funnel or in your database, making sure that that person has the tools they need to talk with enthusiasm about you. And that's kind of silly, unless you've got $235 million, then do whatever you want. Put frogs on TV. But if you don't, whether it's you as lean startup or a business that's trying to be lean in its marketing practices, understanding this one simple fact that it is way more expensive to acquire a new user, a new customer, than it is to retain the customer you have. If you understand that, then you understand you have to love the one that you're with. You have to take care of that customer you have. You have to cater to their needs in every conceivable way, which means giving them more reasons to come back, to engage, to talk about you, etc. This is a real, I said depressing business fact. It's not. It's just true. It's just a business fact. It's way more expensive to try to acquire new people. So if you can take the people you have, if you engage them about the stuff that they love, then you get the benefit of this. Ads will never beat out a person who's engaged with you talking about stuff they're passionate about to their networks. Every single person in here, I don't fancy myself a particularly good salesman, I do okay, but every person here can tell my story to their friends better than I ever could. Everybody. You have to just give them the tools. And it just converts better. Now, some people are exceptionally good at creating content that is inherently fairly shareable. There's a property in the US called Business Insider. They're notorious for doing slideshows, and they, just to geek out on media for a second, every time you click next, they're counting that as a fresh set of inventory. So they will charge their advertisers, for a 10-page slideshow, they'll charge them 10 times as much for the inventory. That stuff seems to be more shareable because people love lists. People love lists. Listicles, right? That's what we call them. Do you guys know BuzzFeed? They're even better. The number of brands that they can make cats relevant to is phenomenal. I've seen them make LOL cats relevant to toothpaste. I mean, it's a pretty impressive thing. And it's actually a really smart team. These folks have actually done amazing stuff. Kind of like the Stratos guy, though. They've optimized for content for big brands that have big budget. What happens for the rest of us? What do the rest of us do if putting an LOL cat on your brand or having some kind of list of 5 things you didn't know that dogs loved about toothpaste? What if that doesn't work for you? What are your options? What are we left with? We're left with the people we love, the people that love us, and serve them with content and getting out of the way. So I wanted to give you an actual example from my life. Bear with me. I promise the story is, no, it's exactly as creepy as it looks. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, give or take, my wife, we're having coffee in the morning, and she had just launched something really big, and I could tell that she was super, super stressed. Not like I'll do the dishes stressed, not like I'll cook for you stressed, not even like Rose is stressed. Like maybe I should leave, or I don't know, get her a puppy stressed, super, super stressed out. Puppies are dangerous as gifts. I learned that once a long time ago. They don't ship very well. I'm kidding. So I decided that what I was going to do was get her a massage, which sounds innocent enough, except I had it in my head that since she was running around, I'd heard of a service, right? Somewhere in an advertisement, I'd heard of a service that delivered in-home massage, which I got to be totally honest, sounds super sketchy, right? It sounds really, really sketchy. So I got to the checkout screen, and what did I do? I froze up, and I was like, I can't pull the trigger on this until I have validation from an expert, right? I went, no. Until I have validation that somebody in my network that I know or trust has actually experienced this service. So I used this tool and went and dug through my network, and I found about 4 or 5 people who had talked about home massage. And I found this one woman who had tweeted in my network. She follows me on Twitter, and we have kind of a casual web relationship. That sounds bad, actually. We have a casual friendship on the internet. I don't even know if that's better. But I was able to dig up that in the past 6 months, she had tweeted about the fact that this company, Zeal, is the name of the app, Z-E-E-L, that she'd use a service and that she thought it was good. And I was like, oh, this is great. Let me ask her. Let me validate that the service is good. So I DM'd her, and I said, thinking about getting this, feels like it's creepy. Do I want a stranger coming and touching my wife? Which, by the way, typically the answer is unequivocally no, right? I think it's fair to say that we can all agree on that. She wrote back a very balanced review. She said, it was amazing, but it was super expensive. I would do it again. Perfect. So here's a woman who didn't feel threatened. It was awesome, great service, great. I booked it. Service turns out to be amazing. So where am I going with this? My wife was so excited that it got me excited. I was like, this is amazing. This is great. Like, I love the service. I personally am now invested in spreading the gospel of this service. It's a great service and more people should know. So not only did I post about it on Facebook, I used the same tool, and I shared it with like 3 or 4 friends directly who had been talking recently about work-life balance, about stress, about wanting to ship their kids off to camp, but all the different things that I guess make for tough living as an adult. And then I was like, oh, and 2 of them out of 4 said that they actually were going to book the service. Good conversions, right? So I said, I'm going to write about this and actually just kind of do a quick post, because this is the way that services in some ways are meant to be consumed. Now, between you and I, I'm in business, so I also kind of wanted all of the people that we're trying to sell to realize that this is the way that services like ours could be utilized. So I wrote this post. I put it out there in front of the people that we had existing relationships with, some of who were waffling, should we be using you guys or not? And we had this spike in conversions. And also, the CEO of the company that I wrote about emailed me and said, let's talk. Oh, that's weird. That's crazy. All I did was write a post. I didn't put out an ad. I didn't show up at his door with a boombox. That was a close second. I was going to do that if he didn't reach out. But this is a real thing. This happened. And I promise, I didn't set out, I didn't get my wife a massage so I could do this. But it occurred to me that at these moments when people are excited, you've got to give them the tools to channel that excitement, to talk about you. It's this simple. If you can establish a relationship and you can generate the content, you have to. The sort of competence that used to exist around things like SEO and SEM are going to always be important to a degree, but the rise of social relationships in influencing purchase decisions, in influencing the way that we think about how we're going to evaluate products and services, the fact that many of us in this room, many of the folks in my network, we don't even get our news from traditional sources anymore. This is the world we live in, right? We're a networked world of individuals with hundreds or thousands of, relatively speaking, experts in our networks. So give the right content to the right people to go out and start those conversations, because conversations are the precursor to conversion. So I could go on about this for a while, but I think it is long. It's been a long day for a lot of you guys. I don't want to stand between you and beer. So I will end simply with this. The notion of cold, the idea that if I target you well, I'll get in front of you, I'll retarget. How many people love retargeting? You look at something once, and then it follows you around the web like an ex-person that won't get that you broke up, right? Oh, is that same ad again? I've had moments where somebody spent money on retargeting, I already bought the thing. And because they've cookied up my computer, they think I still want it. That's going away, right? It's not going to go away completely. But as a core part of your strategy, it can't be the thing that is the main thing. Cold phone calls, cold ads, it's dying. And so what do you do? If traditional marketing isn't working, I think you have to think about unmarketing, about community, about content engagement in this new way, in this new light. So that's it, Jiku, and thank you.